Toronto Maple Leafs head coach Sheldon Keefe has some serious decisions to make regarding his playoff lineup, and I'm going to break down 3 players that I think have solidified themselves into the Leafs roster for the opening day of the playoffs, and I'll break it all down for you coming up on this episode of Hat Trick HQ. But before we get into it, just gotta say that 74% of you guys watching this aren't subscribed to the channel, so if you're big hockey fans, big NHL fans, just like all of us here on the channel, make sure to go down below and hit that subscribe button for your daily dose of hockey content here on YouTube. But with that said, let's get right into the first topic of the video today. The first player we're going to talk about is Ryan Reaves. And Ryan Reaves is a guy, me personally, I think this guy has solidified himself in the playoff picture for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I just think with his, physical style of play, I really do think that he could handle himself in the playoffs and really give a jolt to this star-studded Leafs lineup on nights we see whenever he gets in a scrap, whenever he gets in a fight. He really fires up this team, and I did see some things from an article making a case for Ryan Reaves here for the playoffs for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we're just going to take a look at it here now. And it says, well, Reaves, we saw at the beginning of the season, is back and fiercer than ever before. The last few weeks, we have seen Reaves get into a number of fights, being more physical and intense, showing what he has brought in to do, showing what he was brought in to do. You see, last week he set the tone physically against the Florida Panthers and won fights against Tampa Bay Lightning's Tanner Jeannot and Montreal Canadiens' Michael Pezzetta. The addition of Connor Dewar to the fourth line has also given both Reaves and David Kampf better results at 5-on-5, having a 66.67 goals for percentage and a 63.56 expected goals for percentage and a 54.55 scoring chances for percentage, which is drastically higher than what we've seen at the beginning of the season. They say here they're becoming more relied upon and aren't hemmed in their own zone as much as they were early on in the season. They also go on to say here, although he may not produce offensively, Reaves has done a great job providing a net front presence, getting in on the forecheck and using his underrated speed to beat defenders for a scoring chance. A few months ago, Reaves was probably in trouble of losing his roster spot for the postseason. However, his resurging tenacity and physicality has solidified his spot on the fourth line. His style of play is what playoff hockey is made for. While he may be the odd man out if the team elects to go for more offense, he's definitely a lock for Game 1 with his play recently. And I 100% agree with what they're saying here in this article. They're kind of reiterating what I was saying earlier in this video. I think Ryan Reaves, for me personally, is a guy you want on the ice in a playoff series, especially for Game 1. He's a guy who's going to go out there and he's going to set the tone for their opponents as soon as he steps on the ice, whether it's with a big hit, whether it's with a fight. He's even good at blocking shots. And as we've seen this fourth line progress throughout this season for Sheldon Keefe and the Toronto Maple Leafs, this is the best it's looked in recent at this point of the season in recent times. I think, like they say here, with the addition of Connor Dewar, I think this guy has really revitalized this line and really made them, when they're out there, score more chances, have more scoring chances, put a few points up. They're not just out there to bang bodies anymore. They can actually go out there and produce offensively. We've seen this from this line throughout the latter half of the season here, that this team, can go out, or this line can go out and help this team when they're down in the game, maybe when they're trying to look to get back, whether it's with a physical bang, or sometimes we can see the puck go in the back of the net for these guys. And the one thing about Ryan Reaves here that I think solidifies him is not just his physicality. They say here, they mention his forecheck, which is great as well, but he can get in scoring chances. He has such underrated speed, like they said in this article. But the big thing about Ryan Reaves for me is he's a big body. He's a big man that you can park in front of the net when you're letting your defenseman rip shots from the blue line, or even, Connor Dewar or David Kampf are ripping shots at the net. It's hard for a goalie to see around a guy like Ryan Reaves, and I really do think we will see Ryan Reaves locked in for Game 1 of the playoffs, and if he has a good showing in that game, I think he won't come out of that role. I think barring injury, I think he'll be in there for the rest of the playoffs. Really hope that doesn't happen. But when you're a fighter like Ryan Reaves, your hand's going to get busted up and stuff like this, so you might have to take a game off from time to time. But mark it down. I think Ryan Reaves is a lock for this team for opening night of the playoffs. I want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on Ryan Reaves, making this playoff making the playoff lineup. I'd love to hear from you guys down below. We're going to get into the second player who we're going to talk about today, which is Bobby Mcmann. And yes, Bobby Mcmann has been a guy who came up from the Coast League to the AHL, a guy who kind of, nobody really expected him to have the season he's having right now, or to be extended like he was, by Brad Treliving. I think this guy has easily locked himself in here for the playoffs. I think this is a guy who could be really underrated for this team. I think with his offense as of late, he's been a guy who's been producing a lot. He could easily come in and be one of those bottom six guys who are producers in the playoffs. We've seen so many guys over the years kind of make a name for themselves in the playoffs, and I think this is what we're going to see with Bobby Mcmann. And this is what the article says. They say there's a reason why the Leafs extended Bobby Mcmann. It all started when he scored a hat trick against the St. Louis Blues in February. It was an opportunity he was looking for to potentially find his place in the lineup. Since then, he's been extremely productive and has even found himself in the team's top six at times before he was put with Tavares and Marner against the Canadiens. Coincidentally, he scored in the Maple Leafs 4-2 win. Over his last 26 games, Mcmann has scored 13 goals and has tallied 17 points. That's a .65 point per game average. When he's on the ice 5-on-5, he has a 62.22 goals for percentage and is showing his offensive impact and results. And Mcmann's speed and ability to be aggressive on the attack is what has got him to the point of moving further up in the lineup. It continues to show in every game that he's putting in the work and effort is there consistently. He's in the lineup consistently. He's become more of a fixture than highly touted prospects like Nyes and Robertson. I think Nyes has obviously locked himself in here for the playoffs. They say as a result, he is a player that can be underrated, an underrated performer in the postseason if he continues to excel. And yes, like they say here, over the last little while, and yes, Bobby Mcmann has been a really consistent performer for this Toronto Maple Leafs team this season, as we've seen here with a .65 average point per game total over his last little while. I think this is great. We've seen his goal scoring ability here with 13 goals with 17 points over this last little while, and it's just shown for him to be a great player for this Toronto Maple Leafs club, and a big reason why he got that extension. And I think this guy has locked himself into this playoff lineup over a guy like Nick Robertson. I think just the consistency is there. I mean, just the way he's playing, like they say, the hard work and the effort that he's putting in every night to stay in this lineup is the reason for me why he is put in this lineup over a guy like Nick Robertson. He's a guy, like they say, he could be an underrated performer in the playoffs. A guy maybe on a night where your offense is a little bit lacking, this guy can pick up the slack throughout the bottom six, like we've seen multiple times from Bobby Mcmann. Obviously, that hat trick is the most notable point, but I mean, he is a guy who's going to get assists. He's a guy who mainly is going to score goals, and he's also great defensively out there as well. That's one thing that is kind of overlooked in Bobby McMahon's game, in my opinion. He also skates well. His ability with the puck is great as well. And I think that having him in these bottom six in the playoffs, where maybe, every goal counts, I think is really going to help this Toronto Maple Leafs team. But I want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on Bobby McMann? Do you think he gets in over a guy like Nick Robertson? Let me know down below in the comment section. We're going to get into the last guy who I think, has cracked this lineup for the playoffs. And it's one that I know a lot of you guys are going to be excited about. And that is Simon Benoit. Benny, I think this guy, ever since they signed him in the offseason, I've been really high on this guy. I love those defensive grit type defensemen, and that is exactly what you're getting with Benny the Milkman here. I think this guy has easily solidified himself in this roster for night one of the playoffs for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think his play as of late has been great. He's been laying the body. His physicality has been amazing. Also blocking shots and stuff like this. He has, provided some great zone exits in these last few games that he's been in. I know there's going to be a lot of, arguments about who's going to get in here opening night. Is it going to be Edmondson? Is it going to be Benoit? Is it going to be other people? But I think Simon Benoit has locked himself in here. They obviously extended this guy as well. I think they know what they have with Simon Benoit here with Benny. I think that, I think that he could really help this team in the same ways kind of as Ryan Reaves is going to help this team. It's going to be on the physical edge. It's going to be on the defensive end of the ice, obviously, and He's going to provide a spark throughout this lineup in a 7-game series. He's going to bang some bodies. Some guys are going to have ice packs on when they leave the ice and are in the dressing room because he just crushes hits. He really finishes his hits, which I love to see out of Benoit. This guy has easily become one of my favorite Toronto Maple Leafs players this season to watch, and I was really excited for this guy. We'll take a look at what they say here in this article. They say Benoit prides himself on providing a steady shutdown defensive presence for the Maple Leafs at a 60 rate, at a per 60 rate at 5-on-5 with 500 minutes played. He has the lowest shots against with 24.05 and the second lowest goals against with 2.04. Those numbers show the tremendous impact he has mitigating shots and goals against when he's on the ice. He's quick at getting into lanes and closing gaps with his size and taking anything away from reaching the net. He has 89 blocked shots, 5th on the team, but it's his drive and physical play, like I was saying, that has been on display, leading the team with 220 hits. And they also go on to say here that while he has a strong defensive game, Benoit does have some upside in breaking out and stretching plays forward. That combination could work well for the Maple Leafs in the postseason, as his defensive game and quick transitional passing could be a difference maker if he's on the roster for Game 1. In a situation where you need if you need a defend a lead, you could count on him with his steady play and in-your-face style presence for opponents. So this article kind of just reiterated what I said. I think he easily gets in here. Obviously, this guy is great at shutting down plays. He's great at shutting down some of the top offenses in the NHL, like we've seen over this last little while. He's great at getting in the way of those lanes that players are trying to get into with his stick, with his body. He has such a booming hit that when he lays a shoulder on you, you're going to the ice. It's just the way it is when you go up against a guy like Simon Benoit, like Benny, like the Milkman. That's just his style of game. He's so great defensively in his own end that, it's hard for these teams to enter the zone. It's hard for these teams to set up once they're in there because this guy's just on you like a dog. He's just dogging it out for this team, and he's just laying the body. He's also, like they say in this article, part of his game that's kind of overlooked, in my opinion, is his, ability to pass. I think this guy has shown recently some great developments, and throughout the season, some great developments within his passing game. He's also a guy who, like they said, they can play up. He likes to move the play forward. He's great at getting those outlet passes. He excels at this, and he could jump up in the rush at times. He has a booming shot. It might not be the most accurate shot, but when it hits on goal, it's going to be hard for a goaltender to save it. I think Benoit, like I said, has easily become one of my favorite Toronto Maple Leafs this season, and I think it would be a shame for him not to make the opening night playoff roster. I think this easily happens for this guy. I think the style of play, the play he has been producing over this last little while will easily slide him in here, and I'm just really excited for a Benny playoff run because I think this guy's just going to crush some people in a 7-game series and really get under the team's skin. But I want to hear from you guys down below in the comment section. What are your thoughts on these 3 guys I talked about today? Do you think they make the roster? Or if not, who is going to come in replace of them? Let me know down below. We're going to get everybody's favorite topic here, which is comment of the day. And the comment of the day today goes to Milton. He says, as a Montreal fan, I love Matthews, and he knows the fans boo him because he's great. Win-win. And yes, Milton, I definitely have to agree with you there. I mean, and myself as a Montreal Canadiens fan as well, I love Matthews. I think he's the greatest goal scorer in the NHL right now. Over the past 5 years as well, I think, he's really developed his game, developed his goal scoring ability, and this year has a chance to hit 70, so that'll be interesting to see if that happens. Like I say on every video, we are on 70. Watch for Auston Matthews, and like Milton said here, he loves Matthews. He's a Montreal fan, just like me. We are in the same boat here, and seeing the fans boo him isn't because he sucks. It's because he's so good that the fans hate to play against him, hate their team to go against a guy like Auston Matthews. So it's great to see that comment from me, Milton, because it really hit home with me. It's the exact same way I feel. So I love to see that. But if you guys enjoyed this one, make sure to go down below, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're on the road for 3,500 subscribers here on the channel. So if you're looking for a place or maybe a second place for hockey news, for NHL news, Leafs news on YouTube, go down below and hit that subscribe button. And if you want to check out a video I did yesterday on Auston Matthews talking about Habs fans, it'll be popping up on your screen right now. But as always, I've been your host, KC. Keep your stick on the ice.